Sure, I don't like the marvelization of this DreamWorks logo, but the real issue here is how all these characters waive their privacy to be spied upon at will by the Moonchild Fisher Prince. The only reason they're all waving happily is because the MCFP doesn't forget.
I would have let this sin slide if you had just left it at the way this logo changed, but then you had to go and once again take it super seriously. This is the 4th DreamWorks logo I've noticed that you do that with.
Random otter survives this obvious hate crime.
Well, this bodes well for the rest of this video.
Hello, bonjour.
Guten Tag, Ujambo. Hola. Congratulations on your purchase.
Making sure your robot says a token hello in multiple languages and then only using English to deliver the important information. So it remains clear who the important customers are.
Or she's probably just having a little fun by saying hello in multiple languages. Universal Dynamics most likely wants them to come off as friendly as possible, and we Americans do tend to say stuff in Spanish just for fun, like hola or gracias.
Congratulations on your purchase of a Universal Dynamics robot.
Because Comcast Dynamics would have given away who the real villains are too early.
Implying Universal isn't the real villain, as if they don't keep making Fast and Furious and Jurassic World films that are getting old.
Adorable as it is, why does the robot need to measure things in units of its own size? Can't it just, measure it normally and know what that means?
But this works too, doesn't it? This is one of those sins where you just question something as if it's stupid, but the fact that it works makes me wonder if it's actually something wrong with the movie.
This extremely advanced robot somehow doesn't have very basic object recognition that would instantly tell it A, this is a crab, and B, this is not a customer.
These robots were never designed to interact with crabs. They were solely created to help humans, and it seems like they are made to find their customer, which wouldn't be a problem if Roz actually made it to her destination.
Why is the multifunctional utility robot clumsy?
Because she's not designed to traverse through a jungle. We're only a minute in, and I've already had to repeat this same point over and over again. Just because Roz is super advanced, that doesn't mean she would know how to do everything.
Using the Seeing Jesus in Toast method for your robot's pattern recognition software.
But isn't this actually correct? How are these two things even comparable?
Also, maybe Rosum's got some glitches after falling out of a plane, I don't know. But you'd think right out of the box, the robot would need to hear some basic commands before endlessly searching for a customer.
That's just how you think this robot should work. But that's not how it's programmed according to the movie. In the real world, we don't have robots this advanced yet, and with AI that can think for itself. So the movie has free reign to assign whatever rules it wants.
I will take a second to say that this movie is beautiful, and I'm glad someone noticed how much we all love the animation in Puss in Boots 3. However, I am not comfortable living in a world where Hollywood is actually capable of learning the right lessons.
Puss in Boots 3? There is no third movie. Are you thinking of Last Wish, which was the second movie? Also, Jeremy sent something he likes cliche.
Hey, check it out. Look.
Rosum can now speak to animals, completely disregarding the fact that they may not even use language as we understand it. This tech makes less sense than the universal translators in Star Trek, and that can talk to warrior armadillos and space whales.
Jeremy, this is an animated movie where animals are intelligent, robots have free-thinking AI, and the Golden Gate Bridge is underwater. It's not meant to be realistic. You're supposed to suspend your disbelief. While an animal translating thing is ridiculous, it's not the most ridiculous thing in the movie.
Also, the movie presumes that all animals, regardless of species, speak in the same language. And that evolutionary convenience is slightly too beneficial to the movie's needs for me to accept at face value.
That's been a thing for basically every movie with talking animals. While I agree that it's not realistic, sinning this movie for that is silly, since it's not the one that came up with this concept.
It was an interesting programming choice to make sure the robot intended for familial use writes itself in the creepiest way possible, complete with Frankenstein arms. Also, yes, I know it's technically Frankenstein's monster, but that doesn't flow as nicely, and also shut up.
Jeremy then just adds a sin to the movie for preemptively responding to his audience. Why couldn't he just say that, not add a sin, and move on?
Did anyone order me?
Yes, I believe DreamWorks did after spending an afternoon watching Pixar movies and concluding, well, I guess we haven't done a Wall-E yet.
No, this movie was based on a book that came out almost 10 years ago. And Wall-E and Wild Robot are nothing alike, aside from having robots. Like, didn't you sin Wall-E already? Oh yeah, I sinned that video.
While Rosum embarks on a raccoon extinction, let's talk about how this plays out in their intended situation. Rosum is getting used to their household and falls down a set of stairs. A gaggle of children find this hilarious and start taking them apart, running away with their appendages, much like the raccoons do here. The problem comes when the appendages choose to Derrick Henry their way through said kids, while centrifugally yeeting them into walls, windows, and family heirlooms in order to repair itself. I do not think that is good programming.
Why are you assuming Roz would treat humans the same way she treats raccoons. The robots have been programmed to serve humans, so I feel like it wouldn't be the same.
Maybe it's because of the Bruce Almighty moon, but I didn't realize raccoons could climb trees as a team in a giant ball. If you're on the inside of this ball, you're not only doing the work of climbing the tree, but you're also bearing the load of multiple passengers. I'm gonna grade this impossible.
And I'm gonna grade this cartoon physics.
Aw, there's one baby remaining. This is just like Finding Nemo. Only this time we're being asked to root for the barracuda.
So it's not like Finding Nemo then.
Throughout this chase, you'll be asking yourself questions such as, why doesn't the fox just eat the egg? And how is the egg not smashed to pieces by all the grabbing and dropping? And why is the robot interfering in the natural order of things? And these are valid questions that I'm glad are keeping you up at night too.
The first question is valid, even if I think Fink was trying to find a good spot to eat the egg. The second question is also valid, though can be simply answered by cartoon physics. However, the third question is what I have the most issue with. Roz literally killed Brightbill's family, so she feels a duty to protect him. Not only that, she doesn't understand the natural order of things yet. Remember that crab that you showed her pick up? She was surprised to see a bird capture it.
Oh, cool. This robot comes equipped with a dangerous three-headed torture device that hilariously pulls out harmless tweezers. Arnold Toth from Raiders of the Lost Ark would be impressed.
Arbitrary movie reference.
I do not understand this response.
Dad?
No.
The monster!
Apparently some possums study under William Shatner when learning to play dead.
Dead things don't have to explain why they're dead. Now we're gonna get killed for real.
Being this nonchalant about being killed for real when you for real think you're about to be killed.
That's the point. These animals are so much more used to dying and surviving than humans. Mother Nature is brutal.
That gosling stalks me, emits noise, and makes simple tasks more complicated or impossible.
Thing I told Greta Gerwig on the set of Barbie somehow makes it into the script.
And it's a good thing she didn't listen to you, huh? Look how that turned out.
Eat.
This robot has the ability to communicate with the entire forest now, so it's amazing to me that she doesn't seek help from the other birds in the area to get information or even let some other bird adopt this one.
First of all, she's a robot that's meant to be as much of a servant as possible. She doesn't yet realize she needs to ask for help. Second of all, you saying that she should have let another bird adopt Brightbill is stupid. Haven't you been paying attention? Kevin McAllister's mom explained to her that Brightbill immediately imprinted on her since she was the first thing Brightbill saw, and she was accidentally given the task of watching over him.
I have some essential needs.
Do foxes know what turkeys look like when they're cooked, or am I just supposed to roll with it?
Even if Fink doesn't realize it's a turkey, doesn't it still look delicious anyway? Why do you think we eat them every Thanksgiving?
Think, as a local goose expert, how do I get to eat swim fly?
Rosam decides to trust the advice of the animal that just licked a touchscreen to taste the picture of a turkey.
This scene literally made a point in saying that Roz is easily trusting.
It's okay. I won't eat him. Are you crazy? I might eat him.
You said you would not.
Do you believe everything you hear?
Yes.
Noted.
Fink described himself as a goose expert, and Roz needs all the help she can get to complete her task.
Rosam inhibition protocols prevent deliberate harm to others.
Citation needed, mainly to offset the existing citations already in this movie of Roz deliberately harming others.
Well, with the raccoons, she was protecting herself, and with Fink, she was protecting Brightbill. And you cut the context for why Roz said this. She just told Fink that she needs a new transmitter, and Fink is telling her they can just kill another robot and take its transmitter. That is directly harming someone for selfish reasons, which Roz is programmed to avoid.
And that's what happens to your brain when you eat wood.
Thing my college girlfriend said to get out of fellatio somehow makes it into the script.
Why are you still making these jokes in 2025?
Humor is based on misfortune?
It's also based on how much I hate and actively misunderstand a movie, but that lesson won't be taught until junior year.
Interesting. Jeremy flat out admits that they actively misunderstand movies. And apparently that's supposed to be funny. I'm just wondering, why is that hilarious? It's more frustrating than anything, and it makes these videos less fun to watch.
How will fictional narrative help Brightbill?
Kids need to feel safe and loved and all that junk.
A story can do that.
Proof that DreamWorks understands the fundamentals of crafting a compelling story, but on balance, chooses not to.
See, that's a good joke, and it doesn't require you to not pay attention to make it. Why can't you just make more jokes like this? Then my videos wouldn't exist.
There's this beautiful robot that happened to be sitting on the edge of that star, and she hears him.
which is impossible since sound does not travel through the vacuum of space.
A Rosm would always complete their task at CinemaSins.
You mean thinking too logically on how stuff and films are supposed to work despite them not being meant to be taken 100% seriously? Yeah, I can see Roz fitting in quite well.
Hakuna Matata, Hakuna Matata.
Jeremy sings in a video cliche.
They were bored and wanted to see stuff sink.
The MCU.
Is that why Captain America Brave New World is a box office success and has good reviews from audiences? Heck, you're making this video while Daredevil Born Again is running, and that show has tons of praise around it, and the new Fantastic Four trailer got tons of views, and we just had that Avengers Doomsday cast announcement that had everyone talking about how exciting it is. Just saying, the MCU isn't sinking like the way you think it is.
Look what we have here.
This scene in The Wild Robot is brought to you by Stephen King.
Are you saying Stephen King invented bullies?
I don't know how much research and engineering dollars went into creating the Rosms, but I bet it's enough that the investors will be pissed by the end product being a robot unable to circumvent a waist-high pond and a rock.
I doubt these robots were programmed to anticipate this kind of stuff. They were only meant to serve humans, not geese.
That thing killed your mother.
Holy shit, who knew the wilderness was filled with such gossipy f***s?
And that's a sin because...
There was an accident.
Why didn't you tell me? I really thought you were my family.
Hey, it's just like in Avengers 2.5 Civil War, when Cap decided to hide the fact that he knew Bucky killed Tony's parents, but didn't tell Tony to protect his feelings. Except this movie isn't afraid to kill things for our entertainment.
Why are we bringing this argument back again? You keep saying Civil War didn't have stakes because nobody died, but the team broke up at the end of that film, and that led to Thanos snapping half the universe out of existence for 5 years. How are you still saying this after all this time?
They were my chance to be normal. They were my chance to swim, to fly.
To skip.
Skipping this heartbreaking scene.
This kid somehow took a trip on an airplane without his balloon getting popped. There are a variety of lies being told by this Universal Dynamics video, and this is the biggest one.
This film was clearly set in the future, as we can see with all the advanced technologies they have. Maybe they found a way to not let that happen.
Introducing the Rosm line of helper robots.
Brought to you by Handy Exposition Presentations, when you absolutely positively have to spoon-feed information to your audience.
But we all know you're secretly glad that this is in the movie, because if it wasn't, you'd be all, where did Roz come from? What was she programmed for? Why does she keep asking questions about how to complete her tasks?
The processing that used to happen here is now coming more from here.
Excuse me, movie, but I think you got some chappy in my cartoon, and I would humbly request you excise it this minute.
Arbitrary movie reference.
I have been overwriting my code for months. It was the only way to complete my task.
Also, I would assume the first law of making AI robots is that they are not allowed to change their own coding. But perhaps that's just me and my silly desire to remain not extinct.
Or that's just you creating your own rules for how robots are made again?
If you are willing to do this, you can fly away.
I've probably already mentioned this a couple times, but I'm still floored that it took this long to getting around to teach flying.
You haven't.
Meet Thunderbolt.
Did this movie give us any inkling that badass Falcon Wing Rames was around? The movie sure makes it seem like you should know who this is. Maybe he was the bird that maybe ate Bright Bill early on, but it was a dirty hoax?
Or maybe this is the movie introducing him?
But easier to turn and dies.
Right after this, some sort of, I don't know, Sabrina Rodrigo song comes crashing into the scene and it just ruins it.
The song was written by Maren Morris, but whatever. Continue.
The song is fine, but the intrusion of a pop song in this movie really seems weird. Like if you stuck Sympathy for the Devil into Star Wars or something.
No, I think this song fits fine. It's literally called Kiss the Sky, and it's playing over Bright Bill learning how to fly. It fits way better than that example you gave for Star Wars.
Okay, that looked cool, but unless that staff is made of vibranium-laced oak, it should be smashed all to shit after being you shall not pass into solid rock by a robot.
Actually, it's more likely this is going through the cracks in the stone. You can kind of make that out when Bright Bill and Thunderbolt are flying through the rings.
Woohoo! Exactly.
All we've seen Thunderbolt teach Lightfoot is that his wings are good for cornering. Nothing specific is shared. They just fly through some Sonic the Hedgehog shit, and that seems to be enough for Top Duck Maladrick to be ready to do a migration.
Yeah, no. You're saying this as if that's the end of the training montage, but it's literally not. There's more after this.
You should be commended.
Ah, Sudden Duck Bill Fly.
Sending Davy Jones.
I've been watching you both for some time.
And just not helping whatsoever, my time as a goose is very valuable.
I feel like Thunderbolt has got it under control, dude.
A bit worse for wear, I'm afraid.
I'd say you shine like new.
Does the goose want to f*** this robot?
No!
What a great way to end the movie. The task of parenting is complete, Bright Bill is with his people, and Roz is left an empty husk, just as a parent should be. It's nice when a movie knows how to end. Why are there 35 minutes of credits?
There's still the unresolved plot thread of what Roz will do. She hasn't called her makers yet, mainly because she's grown attached to Bright Bill and this island in general by now. She hasn't entirely become the wild robot yet. Also, there's about 43 minutes left in the film's runtime during this scene.
Think?
Unless you want to stay, because we could hang out and do stuff.
Does the fox want to this robot?
No.
Even in cartoons, the use of holograms appear to be stupid and unnecessary, especially since this employee gets a notification on an actual monitor just seconds later.
Even when we're not sending Star Wars movies, Jeremy still hates holograms. Like, did they kill your family or something?
Sometimes hearts have their own conversations.
Yes, this happens, unfortunately. I once had to have a long heart-to-heart with my heart.
Chit-chat. In this chitty chat. In this
Chit-chat. Roz, what are you doing here?
Ignoring the veritable plethora of context clues that clearly tell you this is not your Roz.
You think Bright Bill can immediately figure that out? He doesn't understand the idea that there are multiple Rosums yet.
Right now, our only chance is to be led out by someone that doesn't think like a goose.
But you're not panicked, and you're the general leader of this group. Why do you think they'll follow the guy they've hated for the entire movie?
They started to like him as they were flying here.
Also, Bright Bill is only not panicking because he knows that the Rosums are programmed not to hurt anything. That logic should go out the window when the Universal Soldier turns up firing f***ing lasers everywhere. This thing is clearly designed to hurt, and everyone should be panicking.
What do you think they're doing in this shot that you're showing?
Right now, we are their only chance.
Movie didn't know what to do with Roz while Bright Bill was away and settled on her acting out a Noah's Ark to the whole island.
But this is meant to show the island become more of a united community so that when Universal Dynamics send robots to pick Roz up, they will all be willing to work together to fight back.
You put a bunch of predators and their food supply in one room.
I don't remember hearing you say anything about it before now. Besides, despite that very true statement, somehow none of the animals died during this whole mess.
How do you know that? Do you know how many animals there are in here? Maybe some of them died off screen.
He found where he belongs.
What a great way to end the movie. The task of parenting is complete. Bright Bill is with his people, the island is saved, and Roz gets the joy of seeing her child thrive. It's nice when a movie knows how to end. Why are there 26 minutes of credits?
Are you forgetting that Roz sent out a call to her makers to come pick her up? Even though she stopped, Universal Dynamics would still have ways to find her. That's still an unresolved plot thread. At least the number of minutes he said was more accurate this time, even if it's only a minute off.
And where's Longneck?
Doing one of the other 9 movies he was in 2024.
Everything wrong with the wild robot, ladies and gentlemen. An actor is in multiple films in the same year. You just sent Zendaya for being in both Dune and Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021.
I am Vontra, Virtual Observational Neutralizing Troublesome Retrieval Authority.
Jesus, just call her Cruel Devil and be done with it.
Still sending acronyms?
Moments after receiving your signal, we lost it again. Almost as if a certain Rosum unit shut it off.
So when they built Vontra to set robots' minds at ease, did they actually program sarcasm into them as well?
They only programmed that for her voice, not her dialogue.
How did you secure a task in a place where nothing can communicate with you?
Either Vontra doesn't understand what a Rosum's programming is capable of, or the last 75 minutes of Dr. Dolittle has been Rosum's version of an electric sheep.
Or Roz has been overriding her programming like she said earlier. And didn't you send that scene? Jeremy sings, okay fine, hums, in a video cliche.
Also, heroic 360-degree pan around is missing a sexy spider uselessly cocking a pistol.
And also a guy holding a bow and arrow, and a guy holding a circular shield, and a guy wielding a hammer, and
Come on!
On your left.
Ian said he was going to write something about this, so me, Chris, through Jeremy, is telling you all that anything I have to say about this is not needed.
Thanks, Chris. When I made Jeremy hum the Avengers theme just now, I thought maybe that's a bit of a reach, but I do know that Jeremy likes to sing, and I'm sure he'll do something fun with it. But this on your left immediately vindicated that choice. It took me out of the movie so hard that I started going door to door asking people if they'd seen The Wild Robot, just so I could scream at them about how fucking unnecessary this on your left bit is. This did not go over well with the majority of my neighborhood or the local constabulary, and now I'm writing this in a police station where no one has seen The Wild Robot. Thanks, DreamWorks. Also, it doesn't make any sense because he's not even on the left, he's plowing through the middle of them. You'll never take me alive, coppers!
what was that?
Not even Luke Solo can hit one of these things so that Leia can claim, we did it, later.
Luke Solo?
I love you.
Movie takes notes from Interstellar and Back to the Future and activates the power of love, backup power, and backup memories. It's also known as the real you is in there somewhere cliche, and the newly minted take a Hulk to a cherry blossom orchard method.
Wow, there's been a lot of arbitrary movie references in the past few sins, hasn't there?
They will just keep coming until they have me.
Oh, isn't this when Sully weirdly decides that he has to fake his death and leave the water people because that'll stop the humans from... Why are so many movies like so many other movies?
And why do you keep referencing all these movies as if that makes you sound cool?
But you can call me Roz.
Okay, god damn it. Movie, take your sin back, you awesome fucking piece of animated emotions. However, no emotion is without sin, and undoing your protagonist's sacrifice less than 3 minutes after they made it must be some kind of record.
Yeah, but Roz told them she'd be back someday. Besides, do you really think Brightbill wouldn't ever visit her when he's migrating? I feel like he would have seen the movie if they didn't think about that.
Wait, I thought you said we were doing this movie together.
I did, but it'll be on your channel.
Oh.